And we're live! Yay!
Yay!
Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited today to talk with Rachel Archelaus. Of course, I am Jean Berry. And we are going to have some fun talking about books, games, decks, whatever we want, and maybe even aliens. It might come up because we're here. And when I first started talking to Rachel about books and the deeper underbelly of making books and putting books out into the world, I was thinking more about the channeling of them, the downloading of them, how fun it is when you're like, I have an idea. And then I started to hear that Rachel did all kinds of really cool things with those ideas. And so, of course, I haven't introduced you at all. But what I do want to say is that I have been working, I don't know, how long have I known you, Rachel? 4 years, 5 years?
I think
I don't know.
five.
5 years, yeah. And I have been working with Rachel one-on-one. She's been my coach for 3 years. And at the end of each year, I'm like, do I need to do this anymore? We're always asking ourselves, are we still on? I'm like, oh yeah. No, the wisdom and the connection and the ability to be a great coach. Like there's there's a few people on the planet that you want to know everything about you, right? All your deep fears. And that's the person you pull really, really close, right? And so I've been really blessed to be able to not only work with Rachel, but be friends with Rachel for quite some time. And she is, of course, multi-talented, doing massively cool things. She is the founder of the Intuitive Art Academy. She has a bestseller book of the same name. She trains people to do intuitive art. She has a certification program with that. She is a screenplay writer. She is a book publishing maven. And she is unlimited in her ability to create new and cool things. So I am incredibly excited to have you here with me today, Rachel, and to talk about books. And so welcome.
Thank you. Wow, that was amazing to hear. I love it. I feel the same way about you, Jean. I just love having you in my life in so many different ways. And we just keep inventing new ways to spend time together, which is so cool. So yeah, let's talk about books because I love that creation of a book, but I also love the creation of the pathways with which your book is going to reach people and go out into the world, not just to people who are going to read it, but to the industry who's going to review it and spread it around and buy it in bulk. So that's really where my excitement lies with publishing.
That is really cool. And many years ago, my husband actually wrote a book, and we self-published it. Had to buy the 40,000 copies of it or whatever we did. We actually sold them all, which was pretty astounding even at the time, without any traditional marketing, anything like that. And it was just kind of by the seat of our pants, trying to figure out, well, how do you, sell all these books that are now in your garage? And it's you really opened my eyes to all the different cool things that happen inside the publishing business that I had no idea existed, and really allows people to get their work widely seen. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your own journey with your book. Pick any one, any of the books that you've written or published, and share a little bit about the journey of a book. Like what is that?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you first, I started working in publishing a really long time ago. It just happened to be a job that was available near me in Connecticut when I lived there, and my mom worked there and my uncle worked there, so it was an easy thing to step into. And when I got to work in publishing, I realized how amazing it is to be in the process of creation with amazing people. Like I got to hold, you probably won't even know who this is, most of you, but Bob Newhart. Like I held his manuscript and I saw his handwritten changes on it. And it was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because here are people creating things and revising things and like turning a Word document into a bound book. It's just so cool. And I really fell in love with the whole thing. And then in 2008, I decided to publish a book of poetry to go with my candle collection because I had owned a candle company then. So I wasn't looking to be a big publisher or anything. It was just, I know how to make a book and I'm going to make this book and sell it with my candles. But that really started a huge opening. I got like naturally in touch with a lot of people in that world, a lot of writers, a lot of like high level poets, and the momentum just started. And so things went from, very small, no intention of creating a company to actually now having published many, many books and having them be all over the world and, sold in like almost 40 countries and being featured in Library Journal and the New Yorker and lots of places. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind, and it's one of those things where people talk a lot about like, oh, it fell into my lap. Well, this really fell into my lap, and it's been so much fun that I've just perpetuated it. So that's really where things got started. I know that's not answering your question, but
Yeah, no, that's okay. We'll get back to that.
okay.
So I do want to welcome those of you who are watching us live today. Thank you for hanging out. And I'm curious, for those of you who are here live, are you writing a book or have you written a book? If you could share that with us. And of course, if you have questions along the way, you can absolutely feel free to type those in the chat. They pop right up on my screen so I can have Rachel answer all of your deep, exciting questions about publishing books. What does that really take and how does it roll? So thanks for hanging out with us here today. And yes, so first, I'd love to know, have you written a book? Or are you writing a book? Or maybe you're just thinking about a book. So somewhere along that whole continuum. Don't you think, Rachel, that people who are coaches or healers or all those kinds of, don't you think they all basically have a book inside of them?
I think everyone does. It doesn't matter who you are, what you do, because don't forget, like, of course, I have all these props next to me. So like, this is my book about the work that I do and the method that I teach, which you could say would be like the first place your mind probably goes when you think, if you're a coach or something, I got to write a book about my method or what I do with people. But the books that you write just for fun or just because you have this little, maybe you invented a little analogy that you use with all of your clients and you want to write a small book about that. Like all of those things can take you to the next level. And so don't judge it and think you have to write this massive book and then have it be totally comprehensive. It could be a funny little thing. Here, I have an example. This is like a little coloring book I released a long time ago. And it's just black and white. I mean, it's very cheap to make. And so you could make a lot of money if you make a little coloring book. But it's just about helping kids to maintain the ability to see auras. And if you saw that I published that or that I wrote that, you would learn something about me in doing that. But there's no words in it, right? So you definitely have a book in you, and it doesn't have to be that like calling card book that everyone tells you to write.
That's really awesome. And that's great encouragement because I think a lot of people, thinking, well, how will that work? And I'll keep, I'll have to spend the next year every night staying up late or getting up early. So yes, we do have some authors and some forthcoming authors. Lois, of course, I know you're writing a book, but along with a deck and a journal. So she's making those. Karen, 2 books, yep. And so Karen is saying she self-published one and had a small publisher house for the other one. Anna, I would love to write a book someday. Right, so I think that absolutely. So Anna actually makes the most beautiful oracle decks. They're absolutely gorgeous. And so that's what she's mostly published is those kind of things. But that would be fun to have a book to go along with some of those as well. Krista, in the process of writing a book. Awesome. Angela, a book in process also. You had, oh, I love that, Angela. She had her scholarly book published, but not to the general public. So actually, that's true. So, um, especially Dr. Angie, because she's a doctor. So, you have this kind of idea that you have to put out something serious first, right? That's kind of thing. I think it comes along with all of the schooling and everything else, living in academia for a while, that there has to be something really serious in there. But Dr. Angie is writing actually a really cool book about bullying, or actually about not bullying, shifting the world to love and all those things. So thanks. Yeah, thanks for popping in.
That's awesome. And actually, so there's another kind of book you can write or really curate, which is like an anthology. So my second book that I published was an anthology about death, where I had different poets from all around the world submit their poems about the afterlife and death and grieving. And I curated this book. And all I did was write the introduction, and I illustrated it with some photos. And it was so much fun to have a photo shoot like for this book. And it was still a lot of work. I had to rate things and have people help me do a whole bunch of stuff. Like there's a lot to publishing if you decide to do it with, a regular team of people who would work on the book in their little part. But it was so rewarding because here I had an international anthology of books about the afterlife, which was amazing. And yeah, so there's another way to get what you want to say out into the world, but not having to write all of the words of it.
That's really awesome. Ooh. I took you off, put you big on the screen, and then I put me big on the screen, and now it says your name over my face, so I need to move. Okay, there we go. Software. Oh, yeah, Anna says, haha, I suppose I did write a book many years ago, my master's thesis. Yeah, I think everyone who went through that, yes, absolutely. That's beautiful. So, what would you say is the number one thing that people ask you about publishing? Like, what is it that people want to know when they come to you at first?
I think this saying, you don't know what you don't know, applies so well to publishing, because if you've never looked at publishing in the way a real publisher does, if you just think about writing a book, maybe hiring an editor to go through it once before you put it up on Amazon, you're not aware of the length and the time frames that publishers work with in order to create buzz around the book, in order to get it into book buyers' hands and like industry review places. And that, I think, is something people don't recognize is really helpful to them. And so they don't even know what to ask. So I find like people don't really come to me asking questions. They're just like, what do I need to know?
That makes total sense. And of course, we're working on a project together, and I found out all the things that you do and all the staff that you have that really does some of those things. And I think that is true, especially coming from self-publishing, years ago with my husband, is that, there is just kind of thought, oh, well, go find a printer and we have a book.
Which is fine, like there's nothing wrong with that, but there's another way to do it that's a little bit more leveraged and can get your book out into the world in a way that is a little bit harder to do just on your own.
Yeah. But if people do want to, they're like called to do it on their own, they're like, well, maybe it's a budgeting thing, or it's maybe they're like, it's a coloring book, right? They're like, this isn't that big a thing, it's maybe not a career defining book, or just something they want to put out there. Are there some things that people should know about self-publishing that would ease the process a little bit?
Yeah. So you can apply what publishers do to your self-published book and get similar results. So like, for example, this is a one sheet for a book that I published. It's a children's book. And this is really just everything that is relevant to the book coming out. It has author information. It has how the book's going to be marketed, like the ISBN and the price and all that stuff. And if you can make one of these for your book, then you can send it out to the same review places that your publisher would send it out, and you can maybe get some people to write about you. So it's not guaranteed ever that review places will look at your book and review it. You know, they get thousands of submissions every month and probably have like, 10 to 100 spots. But it can be done, especially if your book is like professionally done. So I think one of the biggest things that tells somebody looking at your book if it's self-published or if it's done by a professional is the interior and how it's set, and also what's on the copyright page and the cover. If those look professional, then you have a really good chance of being taken seriously and having all of this stuff work for you. Like people buying it on Amazon even after you're done promoting it the first time, people reviewing it, people sharing it. And the thing is that I would highly recommend going to a professional typesetter, one who actually works in the industry, because there are certain ways that a page is going to look depending on the book genre. So if it's a business book, it's set a certain way, and the paragraphs are actually set a certain way. If it's fiction, it's done a certain way. Like there's all these rules that we would never know about, but somebody who looks at books for a living is going to really pick up on. So if you're going to spend money anywhere, I would say have somebody edit your book for sure. And not just for typos, but for flow and context, and make sure that your book is really easy to read through. And then secondly, I would have it professionally typeset, because that way it's going to, again, be easier to read, but it will look like it's done professionally, and you'll get a lot farther in getting your book out into the world.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that. That's, and I think that those are the little things that make people think, okay, well, so I can figure that out. I can find someone who do those things. What about actually having it seen even on like Amazon or at Barnes and Noble or Target, or what does it take to have that kind of thing happen?
Yeah, so that's a combination of a lot of things. One of them is your cover. Is your cover standoutish? Like let's even take these two things for example. I made this cover myself a long time ago. It's not the greatest, right? Like it's definitely, you're not going to look at this.
It's cute.
It's cute, but then look at this one. Like this one looks like a professional made it. It has bolder colors. So if you were looking at these two, this one you would say at least looks more professional, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe you think this is cute, but it doesn't look as professional as this one. So that's the first thing. You definitely want an amazing cover, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. My favorite site, if you want to look for a pre-made cover that you can customize, is goonwrite.com. So like GOONWRITE.com. They're great. They've got hundreds of pre-made covers that are professionally done, by designers, and then they'll just insert your words onto the top, and it's fantastic and really nice to work with.
And that was goonwrite.com?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just put it in the chat there. Okay.
So the other thing is the metadata for your book. So it's going to be in a different place for some of you. So like if you are publishing and printing through Ingram, that's a printer, your metadata is going to be where you set the book up. Probably, I think CreateSpace still exists. wherever you're setting up your book, if it's on Bowker where you get your ISBN, do it there. Wherever you can put in information about your book, make sure it's really comprehensive. So you want your reviews in there. You can take reviews from your friends if that's all you have. Put it in there. Talk about what your book is. Like use keywords. Make that as big as you can, writing about all the things that are in your book and what people are talking about it. That's going to help too because that increases the search that can happen. And yeah, I think other than that, make sure that it's a standard price too. You know, if all the books in your category are $14.99, try to get your book to be $14.99. It's not a must-have, but if your book is $30 and the rest are $15, it probably won't get bought as much. But I would say cover and metadata are the most important things there for ongoing online sales.
Wow, cool. Yeah, that's the deep insider stuff. And so let's back up for a second into the actual writing of the book. And you know, I've talked to a lot of people who are very intuitive, and they'll get a lot of things that they'll call like a download. There will be information that they just wake up and they're like, oh my God, I need to start writing, like have all this show up, and they'll just keep adding content and content and content until they're done. In terms of writing your book, is there any like tips or pointers, or because I know you're incredibly intuitive as well, and are there any tips or support for this kind of process, or of actually getting the book done?
Yeah, well, I would say again, it depends on what kind of book you're looking to write. So for example, my nonfiction book, this was the hardest thing I've ever done, to be honest. Getting this done, having deadlines, like having it go from that intuitive download into an actual readable thing was really difficult for me. And I had a book coach at the time helping me like make sure I kept on track because it's definitely something I would have like stopped doing and never completed if I just left it to myself. But this book here was a download. I wrote it in about 20 minutes. It's a fairy tale for adults. And it's not a ton of words. Like you can see the words on this page are just a couple lines. And once I illustrated it, which also happened pretty quickly, it was done. So your download could be a finished thing. And if it is, don't mess with it, right? Like let it be what it is. But if it's something else that you're really looking for, it's really worth it to have an editor. If I didn't have a book coach and an editor for that book, it wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be proud enough of it to want to share it. Because that's the other thing. So Tim Ferriss, we all know him, 4-Hour Workweek guy. He first got introduced to his book agent through, it's Chicken Soup for the Soul guy. What's his name?
Jack Canfield.
Jack Canfield, yeah. And Jack told him, if you're going to write a book, write a book, right? Like, so if you're writing something, make sure it's the best thing that you could possibly produce. And it's okay if it's fully done when you've downloaded it. But if it's not, if you're doing like shitty first draft style, which is totally great, get it all down, get your downloads down, get your ideas down, but then work with someone to make it so that it's really polished and easy to read and gets your point across, because that's what you really want. So yeah, spending the time doing that, getting help in doing that is totally worth it, because if you're not proud of what you're done with, you're not going to want to share it. You're not going to want to spend the time to get it out into the world. And you want to make sure that you're just setting yourself up for success.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's really, I think that is the deal is, how do you set yourself up for success? And I do want to pause right now to make an incredibly exciting announcement. And so I know a couple of you folks here who were in my book quest already know this because I was kind of hinting at it already. But Rachel and I have decided to link arms and create a book magic container to help you get your book finished and to the finish line in a beautiful and amazing way. And of course, um, Rachel has an amazing publishing company that if you want some additional support to take it then into the world, that'll be amazing. But we have put together a year-long container. And the reason it's a year long is because although, like Rachel said, maybe you're going to download your book and have it all done now, there are other things that need to happen inside of getting your book done and finished and out there and building buzz and deciding on your unique distribution and how is this going to work for you, that we decided to create a container that had all the pieces that you need. And so the first thing that it includes actually is Rachel's publishing toolkit. And so do you want to tell a little bit about the toolkit?
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about, having your one sheet, sending it out for review. And so I'm going to tell you exactly how to do all of that, how to make your press release, how to send it out for review, where to send it. And like Jean is talking about, if you want to send it out for review and get it into libraries and bookstores and stuff, you need to send them your stuff at least 3 months before your book goes live, because they need time to get all their ducks in a row behind the scenes. So when you're doing a book this way, when you're actually treating it like a professional would, it does take a little bit longer, but it's so worth it because it's so much more leveraged. So we'll tell you all about that. We'll tell you how to make a galley. So a galley is what you send to those reviewers, and on the back it's a little different. It has what your marketing strategies are and information about how to contact you and order stuff. And so we'll give you all the behind the scenes things about what to do to give your book the best chance of success and spread in the world.
Beautiful. Yeah, and we've also then included monthly calls with the two of us, Q&As, where are you at? What do you need? What support do you need? Answer all your questions. What's the next thing actually you should be thinking about? Or, part of it is sometimes that you get stuck in your own process. And so there will also be a monthly call, which I'm calling our dream imagery journey. We're going to set up your month to really get inside the dream and the energy and the love of your book, so that you can have that all show up in the energy inside of your book. In addition, Rachel has thrown in 2 reviews. And this is an amazing item to have inside of this container. So can you tell a little bit about what a review is and why they want it?
Yeah, so a review call with me twice whenever you need it. I've been through this journey many, many times with many, many different kinds of authors. I've done poetry and self-help and children's books and all kinds of things. So I'm aware of the different mindsets that different authors can have and where their stumbling blocks are. Some of you are perfectionists and you're never going to be done with your book. And some of you never want to get started and you're scared. And so going through a review call with someone who's been through the process, I can help you get over where you are stumbling, where you're feeling insecure. I can help you know what to do next if you're not sure. I can help connect you with people who can help you with your book, like if you don't know a typesetter, if you need cover help, or if you just have questions about what's happening in the process of your book writing or your publishing journey, I can help you one-on-one.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I think that's, in the end, birthing any physical product into the world. And I've noticed this with games and decks and journals and all the other things that I've helped people put out into the world, is that it's really a lot of just wanting to be sure I'm doing it right. Like we have this thing in our head saying, did I do that right? Am I doing the right thing in the world? Is this really going to work? And in some ways, it's really just having a professional by your side saying, "Oh no, you got this. We're
Yeah.
going in the right place." That's awesome. So in addition to that, of course, there's all kinds of other incredible goodies that we put inside of this membership. And this isn't a full-on, webinar about that particular program, but I really wanted to make that announcement today because I'm incredibly excited about working with Rachel finally on something together. And um, if you are interested in knowing more information about that, either you can leave a message right here. Yeah, Lois, woohoo, excited for this. Absolutely. You can say, send me a message or send me a direct message, and I'll send you a link to my calendar, and I can tell you all about it. I will be having some links that you can go to in a couple days. They're not quite done, but they're almost done. But I am really excited about inviting you into our world and having and creating a product that we dream into existence together, and just giddy with excitement on all of that. Cool. Well, I'm wondering, Rachel, if you can share some other examples of some book journeys or some of the other cool things that you do inside of Sephyrus Press.
Well, I'll tell you about my own book journey because it doesn't get old. Like, so if you have released a book or if you're wanting to release a book about the work that you do, I highly recommend it. And if it's already out there, I highly recommend, instituting some of the things we've been talking about here. Like, make sure your metadata is up to snuff and you can still try to get reviews for it. Because I hear from a lot of people like, oh, I bought your book a year ago and I've read it twice, or oh, I bought your book and, that's why I'm here joining your program. And it just doesn't get old. Like, it's so cool. The other thing that people don't really think about is that there are things called book fairs and book expos, and you can submit your book to those. There's, that huge foreign rights book fair in Frankfurt every year. Last year, my book was like flagged to be translated into German by this German publisher, which is so cool. Never would have happened if I didn't send it to the book fair. There's children's book fairs. Sometimes last year's was in China. This year's got canceled, which they're probably all canceled this year. But next year they'll be on probably. There's so many, and there are so many places that would love to feature your book that you're probably just not aware of. So don't think that you just have to put it on Amazon and then it's done. Like, even if you've already released your book, you can research these things or ask me, and I can tell you, like, send your book here because it's going to make a big difference. And a friend of mine, she sent her book to Frankfurt a couple of years ago, and one of the major, like, school publishers here in the United States saw it and is including it in their curriculum. And they, it's like a $20,000 deal. She didn't have to do anything extra except send her book there. So there's so much opportunity for your book and so many more people that will be able to see it if you just do a couple more things with it. And all you just need to know is like how and where, and then it's really easy.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. And I love having you as that insider, right? We have the insider track.
Yes.
Because we would love to be celebrating your success. And you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but there is the business growth that happens out of publishing a book right. And I think I've met plenty of people. Last year I was at the National Speakers Association meeting, and I think 4 people after I met them, they like handed me their book like a business card. And I'm thinking, oh, that's just sad. And it's not saying that that's a bad strategy necessarily, because people don't throw away books, but I would rather see that on like some bestsellers list or actually growing their business or actually being sold, that kind of thing. And I think that that's, taking your book the couple extra steps that it takes to actually get there so that it's booking speaking gigs for you, that it's having people go to your website and find you and hire you for other things or that kind of thing. I think that that's ultimately what we hope a book will do for us.
Yeah. And it's a great way to recoup your investment, So if you decide to self-publish and fund this, to whatever length you go to, knowing that there is a return on that, not just in your book sales, but in program sales and in business, it makes it a whole lot easier to do because it can be expensive to, either hire me like a hybrid publisher or self-publish through a services company. You can invest a lot of money, and knowing that it's going to pay off for you it makes it even easier.
That's awesome. So then that's about having a good plan, right?
Yeah. And one
And
thing I love to do, so here's like an insider tip, is pre-sales are so important if you have time. Like if your book's not already released, you want to do a really long pre-sale time. And you want to not only do that on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all those other places, but you want to do it on your own website. So that way you can offer an upsell or a bundle with your pre-sale. When I released this book, I just did like a $99 upsell with my pre-order, and I made back all the money that I invested in publishing that book. So it's just like little things you can do to make more profit from your book or just cover the expenses of your book. It's simple to do if you think ahead.
absolutely. Absolutely. So we were on a call earlier together today and you said something that I thought was really in alignment for the people who hang out in my community. And you said, I plan big and I see, and now I got it wrong. And and I align more, right? I
Yeah.
plan big and I align more. Um, and that's really ultimately what you and I partnering together is about. It's about planning big and aligning because this is truly who we aspire. I mean, there's tons of publishers on the planet, right? But I think having a team like this that has um, the ability to tap into your intuition, to tap um, to your higher self, to use intuitive art to write books. See, this is something I didn't even mention before, but that's one of the cool little add-ons that is part of this program as well is how to use intuitive art to write your book. That's cool as heck.
Yeah.
And I think that there is this very organic thing. Yes, we can plan big. We can talk about all the business side of that, which I love that too. I really do love the business side of running a business. But the fun and surprise and delight part for me is having those little Easter eggs that show up for us through intuition, through, this is the right thing for you, or this seems feels the total alignment. And I think that's the other thing that, you started to mention that you do inside of these reviews is really tap into them and their energy. And that's one of your superpowers is to really tap into people and what their real message is and make sure that the book's really going there.
Yeah. And I just need to say that, and I know you're saying this too, but that's what everyone that I work with on my team does in their own way. My editor does that. She makes sure my real message is coming out and is clear. My typesetter knows exactly how to lay out my words. And because, my book designer makes sure that everything is like perfect, like in designing what colors to use and how big to make images, like everyone involved in the book making process from the cover to the punctuation, like all of it really matters. You want it to be in alignment with you and what you're trying to say. And if all of those people who are working on your book are intuitive and focused on you and what you're trying to say, it is absolute magic. That's why I still do this. It's because I get this amazing sense of like, it's like a high when all of these people are collaborating on one thing and it comes out better than you possibly could have imagined. It's beautiful. It's clear. It's, going to dazzle people from the time like they look at the cover and then they open it and they, it's just like the people I work with make beautiful things. Everything is just gorgeous. And so it's so fun to see that happen for people and for my own books. So yeah, we're all about alignment.
That is awesome. Well, I can't imagine you working with anyone who wasn't aligned. So that wouldn't
I know.
last long. It wouldn't last long
No.
at all. Well, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I might have covered it all, although I'm sure there might be more questions. If you are watching or you're watching later and you have other questions for me or Rachel, please feel free to type them in. We'll make sure to get those answered still. And of course, if you are intrigued or interested about what we're doing with Book Magic and taking your book to the finish line from idea to finish line, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that. In fact, we'll play a game about it, which can't not do it, which is very fun as well. And Rachel, what last words do you have for our watchers today?
Just believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. When I had the first intention to write a book about my intuitive art process, it was probably about, my early 20s, so like almost 20 years ago. And I didn't do it for about 10 years. I never wrote it. I always knew I would. And then when I first wrote it, I wrote it really fast and I wasn't, even though I'm in the publishing world, I was going to do what most people do and just write it fast, put it on Amazon because I just wanted it out there in the world. I think that's something we often feel in a lot of, like, I just want it to be done. But I thankfully had this intuition, like, let me just do it slowly. Let me hire some people to help me. Let me do this the right way, like the real way. And I did that, and it happened a lot slower than I originally intended. It took me about a year and a half, and it was painful at times. Like, I didn't want to do it at times because I'm just so used to going so much faster. But I knew it was worth it. There was never a doubt in me that I was doing the wrong thing. And at every step, I was rewarded. Like, whether it was seeing something come back that was so beautiful and I never knew it could be that beautiful, or having my illustrator just show me something so cool, like something I could never do. Having other people's talents involved in my thing made it more amazing than I could have on my own. And having that time to make a galley and send it out for review, and it's now, it's all over the world in libraries. It's been sold in almost 40 countries. It might be like doing the whole thing, getting it to Book Expo, having that, bring me on international travel trips to teach what I do. Like, I didn't know that was going to happen in the beginning, but taking the time to invest and like go slowly and do the whole thing created such magic. And so whatever you like, however you go about this, just believe in yourself, because you're wanting to write this thing for a reason, or you've already written it for a reason, and it's not too late to do more with it, to treat it like this beautiful, amazing creation that it is, because otherwise, why would you have made it? So just really honor what you're doing and honor what you've created.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And the truth is, if you have an idea for your book wants to be seen. It wants to be read. It wants its transformation to get out in the world. That's truth. So let's set it up for success.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, Rachel. This was awesome. And I look forward to having some fabulous conversations with all of you. So thanks for watching, and we will see you all soon.
Thanks, Jean. Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.